Have you ever hit that login button and just wondered what happens next? In that split second, how does a website figure out it's you and not somebody else? Well, today, we're going to pull back that curtain. We're going to build a simple, secure web login system right from scratch. It really all boils down to this one question. It's about authentication, proving you are who you say you are. Think of it like a digital handshake that lets you into your accounts, your emails, your cat photos. So, how do we actually build that handshake? To make this all click, we're going to use an analogy. Let's imagine our login system is like a bouncer at a really exclusive club. It's their job to check IDs, look you up on the guest list, and ultimately decide who gets in. And right now, we're about to build that bouncer, piece by piece. Okay, let's get into it. To build our digital bouncer, we're going to need 3 key tools. These are 3 technologies that have to work together perfectly to keep our front door secure. So this table breaks down our whole crew. First up, you've got HTML. That's the login form you actually see and type into. In our club analogy, this is the ID card you hand over. Then there's PHP, the backend language. This is our bouncer, the real brains of the operation doing all the heavy lifting. And finally, MySQL, our database. This is the official guest list that our bouncer checks your ID against. So you've got the ID card, the bouncer, and the guest list. Pretty simple, right? First things first, a bouncer can't do their job without a guest list. So that's where we start, with our database. This is the digital vault where we're going to securely store the information for everyone who's allowed inside. Using a language called SQL, we give our first few commands. We tell the system, hey, create a database for us called user_db. Then, inside that database, we build what's called the users table. This table is our guest list. It's got columns for an ID number, a username, and of course, a password for every single person. All right, our guest list is ready to go. Now it's time to build the front door itself. This is the part the user actually sees and interacts with, the login form, where they present their digital ID card. Now, the whole login form really comes down to these 2 little attributes you see here. The action tells the form where to send the user's ID card, their data. In this case, it's sending it right over to our bouncer, that login.php script. And method equals post. This is super important. It's like discreetly handing over your ID instead of just shouting your details across the room for everyone to hear. It keeps the information private during transit. And now for the main event. The user has filled out the form and hit submit. Their ID card is in our bouncer's hands. Let's see how our PHP script handles it. This is where the magic happens, where the actual decision to grant or deny access gets made. Our bouncer is really methodical, follows a super strict checklist. First, they get on the radio to the back office to pull up the guest list. That's them connecting to the database. Then, they read the username and password from the ID card they were just handed. Next, they scan the entire guest list looking for that exact username. If they find it, they move on to verifying the password. And only after all of that do they make the final call. You're in, or sorry, not tonight. So this bit of code here, this is literally our bouncer talking to the database. It translates to, hey, go find all the information for the user on the guest list where the username matches the one I'm holding. The specific way it's written, using what's called a prepared statement, is a huge security feature. It basically prevents troublemakers from trying to trick our bouncer with a fake ID. It stops a really common attack called SQL injection. This first check is non-negotiable. If that username isn't on the guest list, the whole process stops dead in its tracks. Access denied. End of story. But if the name is on the list, we can move on to the final and most critical step, a verification. So, what happens when the bouncer finally gives you the nod? What's the payoff for getting your credentials right? Well, you get inside the club. You get access to the party, the protected area of the website. When you log in successfully, it kicks off something called a session. The best way to think about this is like getting a wristband at the door. That wristband proves you're allowed to be there, so you don't have to keep showing your ID to the bouncer every 2 minutes. As long as you have that session wristband, you're free to roam around the protected pages, like a special welcome.php page. And what about when it's time to leave the club? Well, logging out is basically the digital equivalent of getting your wristband cut off. The command session_destroy tells the server your visit is over. Your special access is gone, at least until you go back to the bouncer and log in all over again. Okay, everybody, pause. Everything we have built up to this point is completely and fundamentally broken without this next part. This is not just some neat feature, it is the absolute #1 golden rule of building any login system. Let's talk about something called password hashing. It's a one-way process. You take a normal password, like password123, you run it through a special mathematical function, and it spits out this long, random-looking string of characters. And here's the magic. You absolutely cannot turn that string back into password123. It's a one-way street, specifically designed to protect that password, even if a thief manages to steal our entire guest list. Look at this. On the left is the absolute worst thing you could ever do, just storing the password as plain text. If a hacker gets into your database, they instantly have every single user's password. Game over. On the right is the only correct way. We store the scrambled up hash, not the password itself. Then we use a special function, password_verify, that can safely check if the password someone typed in matches the stored hash without ever needing to reverse it. Seriously, if you take only one thing away from all of this, let it be this right here. This is the bedrock of modern password security. You never, ever, ever store a user's password. You store the hash. So our bouncer is a really solid start, but professional Fort Knox level security means adding more layers. You'll also want to look into things like CSRF protection, which stops attackers from tricking your users. Even better session management to keep those wristbands secure, and always sanitizing user input, which is like checking everyone's bags for anything dangerous before they come in. So there you have it. We've built the front door, we've hired the bouncer, and we've created the guest list. And most importantly, we learned the golden rule to keep that list safe. You now have the fundamental building blocks for protecting any digital space. So the only question left is, what are you going to build, and what secrets will you protect behind that door?